I lost $15,430 in Zimbabwe, and this is a story of what happened, and I'm sharing this story kuti izame kubatsira mumwe munhu who might end up falling for the same thing that happened to me, and you might also take some business lessons from. So I was very fortunate enough kuti as a young person ndakwanisa kuwana basa, and I was able to came across a huge chunk of money. And because I've lived both sides of the coin, ndakambogara kumusha kupindura, I've lived mumakomboni, I've worked in Chirima Fodga, tobacco yaya, and I've also lived in the city Marare. So I've sort of seen both sides of the coin, and I wanted to use these experiences in the business world because I thought I sort of like had a good understanding of the Zimbabwean economic landscape and also the political landscape. So okay, what kind of business can I actually do? And that was the same time, I think you guys know Professor Nonzikwateri Uya. I knew this guy before he became Zwaari. And I remember this one time, a Zoom conference online, Strive Masiyiwa Titi, and he pitched that idea he wanted to do rural tourism. And I even laughed, is this guy serious? Out as a rural tourism, doesn't he have a better idea? Because I completely thought his idea was like really, really bad, because I was asking myself, who is going to drive for what precisely? I couldn't see his vision. But again, that just goes to show you that if you really have a dream and you work hard enough, you can actually realize that dream. So good for him, and I'm really happy with things worked out for him. And if you ask him, he can actually tell you because those conversations did happen. But anyways, I'm thinking of what can I actually do. Now you need to understand, when I had this money, I wanted to do business, survive the Zimbabwean climate. By that I mean we all know that sometimes statutory instruments and how to regulate your business. You're supposed to accept local currency, but with foreign currency. So I wanted to avoid those kind of issues, and I also wanted to do a business with minimum cost, minimum operating cost. So and I haven't discovered, I've observed it, kana 20 huku, and then of what next week go and after 5 huku, and then she will say, that sort of stuff. And I go kumusha batombo dzebechikafu, they just eat my kitchen scraps, and I said, why don't someone take this business and do it like commercially, like the right way you want? That was my idea. But I also discovered, to make this dream happen, I needed a couple of things. Number one, I needed a location. This location had to be close to a restaurant where I would get the kitchen scraps, the kufida okudzacho. That was the issue number one. And secondly, I also needed a huge numbers of chickens, because it is very profitable, very commercially viable. I needed huge numbers to make a sense. So I was thinking about it, these things are really hard to come by. Could do any location, at the same time we close it to a restaurant. It's very, very hard. And I wanted to be closer to a restaurant because I wanted to reduce fuel cost, because I wanted to reduce my operating cost angle, and I also wanted to increase my profit margin. That was my understanding. So I was having a lot of stress over that issue. Okay, what can I actually do? Then I came across this person. I don't want to mention names, but IT is the biggest Roadrunner business in Zimbabwe, and I was like, wow. Okay, and I followed the story, and it made sense. And I thought, wow, I actually think this can actually work, because I believed the story and everything made sense. And I was also unfortunate now it's not business experience. It seemed like it's actually working. We joined my groups, my WhatsApp groups, and we are starting to see positive messages. My groups, my H rates, a lot of stuff. You are starting to see, that wow, this is actually good. I need to get into this business. And then at the same time, you also need to understand that initial idea and maybe I shandi for many reasons. I would discover, okay, if I try to do that particular business idea, it's hard, because kutenga kuchance kufida ukudzakawanda ma kitchen scraps, sometimes you can get food poisoning. There's a lot of health issues not gonna kuitika ukudza kozina kurwara. So I said maybe I shouldn't do this one, and then let me just use the formula in a moon uyu the number one farmer in Zimbabwe in Roadrunner business. That was can go mtedzera. So ndabadra lesson, aita ma lessons. You can go per Wayback Machine or per Facebook, 2017 2020, that period. I'm sure you find across those, you find those things. Aita ma lessons $20 if I'm not mistaken. You pay your by eco cash or whatever, and then you do my lessons. pipe and tuna license acho you were taught 5 business models. There's business models angakamira kadai. So in Roadrunner business you can do table eggs. Ma table eggs ndoma zaya rinoma wanongotengwa nevanhu vachidya, or you can do mazai anonzi ma fertilized eggs. Ma fertilized eggs ndoma zaya kuti unokwanisa kuendesa to a hatchery kuti wane ma chicks, so you can sell ma fertilized eggs, which means are more expensive than my normal eggs, because you can sell them for $6, but my table eggs are maybe $3 a crate, so that is a huge difference, almost twice as much. And then the third business was meat production. You can actually raise those birds and sell them as meat. And then the fourth one was my day-old chicks. You fertilize my eggs ku HR, you want my day-old chicks, and then you sell them as my day-old chicks. That's another business I'm not gonna quit. Or you can also sell my point of lay. Or this other one runs in exhibition or show you display kuma breeds, that was the other business I'm gonna quit. But of course in Zimbabwe it's not really a business, but yeah, so he was basically making an argument. If you have your Roadrunner business, you can fall into theirs businesses, you can actually be profitable. He made a case here, my Roadrunner businesses, they are more profitable than my commercial chickens, my airline, or my broilers, because of there's 5 models. And I was like, wow. And he did my numbers, actually some projections, and it made a lot of sense. And someone has done better business, and I'm listening to this guy, he's making his case, I fell for it, and I was like, wow, I want to get into this. I truly believed it's actually going to work. And so I've bought in the idea. What do I need to do? Okay, the first thing is I need to get a place here then I bought a piece of land, and then it got to well, at least I bought a piece of land. I also need to build that poultry run. And because of time, let me get into this business quick. While at least I'm trying to build my poultry run, rent another place, and I'm doing another thing on the other side. That's a bad idea, but anyways, and I was fortunate enough that I knew some people in Goromonzi when my farms they were able to give me a piece, and I paid rent, but it wasn't a lot of money, but I was paying rent there. But that time quite after problem my gates, so I had to buy a solar system. I think a solar system to light and all of these things. And then I paid a deposit, because remember when my chicks and I said let me buy my chicks, but now I don't get my chicks, but I don't want to buy from these people, I want to buy from this person, or that and I put my deposit, and I wanted to buy thousands of them, but I said my 500, and then couldn't get contract farming. Reason why, I don't know. That time buys about contract farming, offer. Okay, but anyways, I don't care about contract farming. I truly believe in this idea. It's going to work. So that I'm going to just do this because I truly believed in the business. That thing then I made up a waiting list because I go to the PO because a huge demand that time. I remember almost everyone in business at the time they are no longer in that business. I don't know why, but if you look around on Facebook enough, I think you'll find some of those people, they have ventured into other businesses. They are no longer in Roadrunner businesses. Even Kwateri, he was once into my Roadrunner businesses, but of course he's no longer doing that, But anyways, I made a waiting list paper. They would call you sometimes in advance, to collect on Friday, but phone a bit early. Can you come and collect today? No, I can't. I'm not going to do the boss. You have to prepare, the necessary to discuss the I think when I found out the collector that day, I think I had emergency, so they called the next person. So I had to wait a bit again. Those was on the phone here, then I went and collected them. That which I say and guess what, everything was wonderful. As number high mortalities, it was great. And because I didn't a huge chunk of money, what I'm going to do right now, after I think a month and a half or 2 months, I'm going to spend the money so that I don't stress over food. I wanted to just reduce stress. It's like I wondered where am I going to get money, food and stuff. That was going to China about 8 months. months, but there's not around 5-6 months ukudza kufana kuproduce mazai, and then I'll start the business. So ndaida kuti let me just focus neukudzangu nongobvisa every stress yandogona kuwana, and then I'll use the remaining energy towards the market, because handisina problem yechikafu, handisina problem yemedicine, everything that I've covered it up, and then ndakutanga kufocus on the market. Ukudzangu zakura daro dzakutanga kutoproduce mazai around 5-6 months, and I started discovering something. They don't lay a lot of eggs. It was really hard. What's really wrong? Because I was buying premium, food. Somebody does tenga chikafu and of course, a lot of people in this business, they will tell you have to make your own feed formulations, all of this stuff. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not easy sector because sometimes they will tell you eat a black soldier fly. It's not easy, because if you have thousands and thousands of chickens, you have to do you have to have an industry scale to produce 1,000 of kgs of black soldier fly powder to feed ukudzako. Saka ndakangoti I'm just going to buy from one vanoita saying vanogadzira chikafu, and that guy futi the biggest vamaitotengesa futi feed ona, so I just bought everything there. Ndakunoti mazai haasi kubuda akawanda. Maybe it's a matter of time I was stressed, but I was able to sell some of my fertilized eggs. But I also discovered another thing, people who are buying my fertilized eggs from me or my day-old chicks, they're not my customer then they are gone, because business. That was the problem, and I observe. This business is not going to last for a long time, because I can't keep finding on a business. What am I going to do? Question marks. But it's still my fertilized eggs or my day-old chicks. I said to run out of money, because these chickens, they consume a lot of food. That's problem number one. And I'm not getting a lot of eggs. And some people don't know maybe it's because I will get into that argument. Be patient. They got, what am I going to do? The numbers were not working. So for simplicity's sake, 1,000 chickens and I'm buying feed for these 1,000 chickens. For simplicity's sake, I'm spending $100 a month to feed these 1,000 chicken and it. That spend $100 to produce a mazai tomboti and $300. That's a loss on, because I need to make more than $100 here feed and other expenses kutichi ndive a bit profitable, and that wasn't the case. I wasn't even breaking even on a monthly basis because they were not laying a lot of eggs. A challenge because I had a huge number and I discovered that okay, this business is not going well for me, and I have to downscale, and that was a very painful decision for me, because downscaling means I have to sell a lot of these chicks at a lower price, because I have invested into them, right? And some market people, they buy for $6, mazai, they buy them for $3, and then I've invested so much into these chickens already, so it was hard to tengese nyama at $6 or $7. It's a loss. They're like, okay, I just have to do this. I think I say a lot of them, and then I had to downscale and I had to put survive. But I was still hoping it's going to work. I need to sell my fertilized eggs enough, and I had stopped selling my day-old chicks, because my day-old chicks are a challenge. But they need to feed, and then I'm running out of money, so I didn't want to risk it into any another problem. What I have to buy feed for this day-old chicks, or I think I'm a day-old chicks or to fun of watching it. But fertilized eggs are not because they're just fertilized eggs. You just have to sell them or that was my idea. Let me just try to sell my fertilized eggs, but it was really hard. Now, problem imagine without a stable eggs, you are not going to win, because when you work to compete a hairline, and a hairline is a specialized chicken it produces mazai, and a hairline will swallow a black ostrol up when it comes to efficiency, production, FCR, all of these things, katasama matrix, food conversion rate, number no produce, all of these things, and that does make sense. Tengesa table eggs. So ndakaona pa 5 models yadzera ukaita Roadrunner, you can't sell table eggs because it will be a loss. You can't sell it as meat because it's a loss, because you are eating it for 6 months, you spend a lot per you're eating how much. You can't even sell it at $10 because seriously, who's going to buy at $10? Nobody. So ndakati no, it's a loss kutengesa, you know, as meat. And then your only options kutengesa fertilized eggs, day old chicks, point of lay. Those are the 3 options dzaunadzo. And if you think about it, they're going to observe with a lot of people into my Roadrunner business. Majority of them are breeders. Vanhu fertilized eggs, my day old chicks, point of lay. You know, they don't have a huge number. In a huge number because I wanted to focus on the final consumer. Vanotenga nyama nemchi nema side ndozo andainyanyuda and akuonera the whole business mashandiro aro. So that was my mistake. But yeah, the one it's not sustainable. I downscaled. You know, it was really bad. I've lost a lot. Now not business aramba so adakwa mari yangu yanyura, you know. Then ndapinda muna wheel of one day ndine stress. I was heartbroken to form muna wheel of ndutsaga some people vanoziya business, you know, ndikupinda ma industry mamwe. Came across this man. He's quite popular, but I'm not going to mention him for privacy's sake. I sat down with him. That was a problem, young. You know, I had this dream. I wanted to be successful. It went wrong. He's a very successful man. Young man, let me tell you a story. Then he started giving me my lessons about business. You know, started breaking down business. Wow, you know, I started having this enlightenment moment. So good. Wow, this guy is speaking so much sense here. There were so many things and now they say so and now corners and but again they were all lessons. I'm really grateful for everything that happened. And then he told me a very funny story which I will share with you now, which was putting I will try to make it in a very simple way for simplicity's sake. There was a guy, it was a white guy around kumusha kwa any problem in Makudo. Saka kumusha ukoko akavaona kuti vanhu vakunetsekana nemakudo singati fati wewe nemakudo angane masi cage. If you bring makudo kwandiri, I will give you $1. And I got what? Tine problem nemakudo isusu. Then they went and vakapinda makomo vakauya nemakudo. Vatanga kumupa achitenga $. So this white guy angane problem yoti every Thursday maskati aivhara business aimboenda. So vanhu vaitofana kumumirira Monday to Thursday maxen chet. Ndopa aingooperator business rake Friday Saturday Sunday abatike. So vanhu vakabva vatanga kuona about share nemakudo avo. Mwedzi wapera 2 months dzapera total makudo atenga i500. Now makudo apera vanhu vachiri kuti abate brungu bomunhu mari yako anokupa ngosvika negudo anokupa ona vazoudza vanhu kuti murungu akuona kuti makudo akupera fati mukaine makudo I'll give you $5. Vanhu vakati what akucha $5 vanhu vakutsvaka makudo havachavawana boss amashoma. Murungu yaya vataimira kuti musi weThursday maskati vatsvaga boys rake vapa makudo ake ese aya 500 vanhu vati boys and aine kuseri kwevillage mutange kutengesa makudo aya $4. Vanhu vakuziva kuti ndakuwatenga ne$5 you are going to find people vachatenga ne$4 vachida kuti aprofit $1. You can also sell them maybe $3-4. Vanhu vakati bo vanotenga kutengesa makudo aya nekuseri vanhu vachiti vanhu mavillage vatenga makudo back ichiti tichazomirira musi weMonday murungu adzoka totengesa makudo yari powa ma$5. Vanhu vatenga makudo ese 500 apera Monday asvika murungu akabatike asikubatika ilosi yatoitika kai asara vakabata chi asara vakangobata makudo waona. So the lesson he was trying to tell me was very simple, which was when you are trying to do business, don't do business usinganzwisise, you know, the whole business structure kuti mari inoitika papi, how does mari value your business iri papi, you know, the final consumer is going to be satisfied, you know. People were just giving the white guy makudo vasingazota no white say akakosherei. That is a scary business. Ukata business rakadaro usingazoti, you know, what is really happening on the other side. You know, it's a very bad business. You know, as a principle, you need to understand the business deep enough to understand kuti marino papi, inoperera papi, business rinofamba sei, ma downsides the business, ma upsides. You need to have that total, you know, understanding your business before wapinda business. That's why chinoti muZimbabwe ikirete yakaitika, you know, vanhu vanongoskamwa mari, you know, zvinhu zvichingoitika because we don't take time yokuzama kutanga wanatsonzwisisa the business is model kuti okay, this is how the business works, this is how money is generated in the business. This is where the value is. Vanongopinda muchinhubozo vanonzi chine mari, then they end up vakuchema mangwana. So those are some of the lessons dzandakadzidza. So because unozi now unokuti zvaona chimodzi unonzwana chingoti usanetsane nezvo munhu yakakudza kuti chingwaya nechakati chitokupa mari yako, don't stress, just do this ongopuwa mari yako. It's like no, that is not business. You need to have like a deeper mind yekuzama kunzwisisa the business structure waona. And this conversation ndataura ima Roadrunner ikai, I once said it maybe pandakamboitaura before, I was a little bit tensed up because I had a personal experience with it, so maybe I couldn't share it the right way waona. But anyways, even nowadays with technology yakoka, you can go kana pa chat GPT, you know, to anything chaunoda, you know, or garapa so zamagu research out, okay, you know, can a Roadrunner or a black australo perform better than, you know, a commercial chicken? Never. A commercial chicken yakato design or even a commercial chicken. You can extrapolate this idea in other businesses. For example, kumombe. So that mombe boy and did, but now we know that kunema dairy cows. It's a cow that specialized what ingo ita prolific in milk production. We also know kune mombe mazi bua na kana mabrama and it's gonna they are for meat production and no quotas singaite. So you know you can't make an argument if a hard mashona is more profitable than these two cows that are decent out the commercially viable. And the same thing even when it's not in pig industry, nguruwe msango ayisinguruwe i commercial for a specific reason. Even muhuku chemu dzakatobhidwa kuti kuve nemahairline emazai, kuite mabroiler enyama for a specific reason. So unozonzwa munhu akungoti Roadrunner is more profitable than these other two chickens. Like no, it doesn't work that way. And all the evidence will tell you that one. And somebody can even make an argument, oh, but my black Australop were once commercial one. That is true, they were once commercial in 1950 something in Australia. But if you look into the poultry industry, they stopped in the 1950s if we adopt hairline breeds on are more better on. But anyways, I don't want to get deep into this, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But yeah, that was my story of how I lost 15k, you know. But yeah, and I learned a lot from that incident. So let's see boy. But anyways, can I enjoy this story, or if you have any questions in good faith, feel free to ask. I'll try my best to answer, you know. I'm willing to learn, and this because I'm business are really bad people. They don't know what they're doing. I'm not saying that. I'm just sharing my experience and what I've understood about business. If things are working for you, good for you. And when to rabga off the wrong way in a video and I tweet out, why would you say this, or why are you attacking on my business? To be honest, I'm not. I would care less about that, and I'm just sharing my experience on. And you know, the truth will always win. So you don't have to stress about don't stress about it. That's the one thing that I love and know for effect. And sometimes on float for a moment, but but yeah, that is my story of what happened, and I hope you take away some powerful lessons from it. And can also do check some of my videos, because I do think I make a lot of interesting videos. This was an unusual video for me, because I don't like to speak, so it's really a bit private to me, but I thought maybe I should just share it, because somebody might benefit from it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Cheers.